Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here. I am back again today doing another video. Today's video is going to be focused on the Miami Heat and trade scenarios that I have come up with to make them title contenders. I feel like best case scenario Miami is probably like a second round exit this year, and I think that they do have the pieces within their team that they could swap out and trade with other teams to become a legitimate title contender and arguably one of the best, if not the best teams in the East. So, with that being said, I've come up with 5 trade scenarios to get them there, and I'm going to go through them. Leave your comments below if you're interested, and let me know your thoughts. And without further ado, let's get into it. First off, I have DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge going to Miami from the Spurs. I think the Spurs are ready to get rid of these two. They have expensive contracts collectively over around $55 million with the two of them combined. Neither of them are what they used to be. I think that the Spurs would be completely happy just to get a fresh start, get these two off of the team, get some nice younger pieces in return, and just move forward. So I have them getting Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, a 2022 first rounder, and Kelly Olynyk just to make salary cap reasons work. And if you're curious about the salary cap with this, Miami this upcoming offseason is going to be coming into a ton of cap space, like I think roughly around 40 million. So they can kind of take on as much salary as they want within reason. So that's why like it's not really a big deal for them to take on 50 million in cap space when they're only sending out like 15 million is because they're going to have a ton of cap space. As for the Heat, I think you trade in guys like Hero and Robinson who are good but really not at the level they need to be at to make the Heat title contenders, and you get guys who are playoff tested, not necessarily great playoff performers but really solid contributors. And I believe if you combine these two with who would you have left? You'd have the core of this team would then be like Kendrick Nunn, Jimmy Butler, DeMar DeRozan, Bam Adebayo, and LaMarcus Aldridge with like Jay Crowder and Andre Iguodala off the bench, and also Derrick Jones Jr. So to me, that's still a really solid depth chart and a really stacked starting lineup. Like again, just to review, it'd be Nunn, Butler, DeRozan, Aldridge, Adebayo, and to me, that's one of the best lineups starting off in the league. So I think that although you give up some nice young assets, you basically vault yourself to the most talented starting five in the East, I would say. Maybe them or Boston, depending on your preference. Next, I have Bradley Beal going to Miami. Again, similar package of a first rounder, Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson for Bradley Beal. Why Miami would do this is again, I feel like they have all these nice young pieces, but they aren't ready to really be like contributors on a championship level team. Bradley Beal probably gives them their number 2 or maybe number 1 option. You'd probably say like Jimmy Butler would be like the 1A and probably Bradley Beal would be the 1B or vice versa actually. I'm not exactly sure how they'd want to run the offense, but either way they'd be getting a great offensive option in return for some nice young guys. And although they're giving up some really promising young guys, I think Bradley Beal can be that kind of missing piece, so to speak, where you can still again trot out a lineup of something like um, Kendrick Nunn, Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Kelly Olynyk was still a bench of uh, Derrick Jones Jr., Iguodala, and Jay Crowder, which is really good depth off the bench. Or you could start Jay Crowder and have Olynyk come off the bench, kind of whatever you want. But to me, I still really like that core, and I think Washington's still getting a fair deal in that they're kind of getting a chance to blow up the team and rebuild with some really nice, promising young pieces. Next, I have the huge trade that probably a lot of people will disagree with, but I think it's actually a decent trade for both sides. So let me set this one up. I think that Portland is not going anywhere. I think that they are at best like a first round sweep this year. I think that last year was a complete fluke with them getting to the Western Conference Finals, and let me explain why. They got a ton of luck getting on the side of the bracket that they got on, being on the 2, 3, 6, 7 side of the bracket rather than the 1, 4, 5, 8 side of the bracket. Um, and honestly, I feel like they got to the Western Conference Finals, but they might have been like the fourth or fifth best team in the West last year. Also, LeBron and the Lakers didn't play because LeBron missed like basically the second half of the year, so they weren't in the playoffs to challenge them and make the seeding more difficult. And basically, I think Portland feasted off of a weaker Western Conference, and let me again reiterate, they also got swept by the Warriors without Durant last year. And I think like I don't know, I just think there's like a really hard ceiling on this Portland team, and it's basically like a first round exit when the West is like normally healthy. Like this year, besides the Warriors, the West was like its normal amount of healthy, and Portland's like the 9 seed right now. So I think that speaks to what this current core can do. Either way, enough of that. I think that this is the time to blow it up for them and start rebuilding. And what better way to blow it up than with 3 first rounders, along with 3 really highly touted young guys. Actually, 4 if you consider Derrick Jones Jr. a promising young guy. So basically, Miami guts its future to basically have the best quartet in the NBA of CJ, Dame, Jimmy Butler, and Bam Adebayo, which like. If you thought I liked DeRozan and Aldridge, I liked that. I absolutely love this quartet. Your starting lineup is probably like Dame, CJ, Butler, Jay Crowder, and Adebayo with a bench of again Iguodala, Olynyk, um, Myers Leonard, and then probably gonna have to sign some cheap veterans. But either way, they still get a really solid lineup there. And Portland can basically slot potentially all 4 of these guys into their starting lineup with Yusuf Nurkic, and then just be really well set up for the future too. These guys are all still on their rookie deals, and then the three future first rounders would really help them. And just for Miami, I think like you look and you say that lineup of Dame, CJ, Bam, and Jimmy, to me, that lineup is equal to Boston's big 4 of Hayward, Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kemba, if not better, because I think you go down the line and you say Dame is better than Kemba. I would say Jimmy is probably about equal to Tatum at this point. I'd say Bam and Jaylen Brown are similar, and I'd say CJ is better than Gordon Hayward. So to me, I give the slight edge to Miami, but I don't know. I really like this trade for both teams, and it might be far fetched, but I think it actually isn't a bad trade for either team. Next, I have Devin Booker to the Heat for 3 first-round picks and Tyler Hero. Devin Booker, I think, is going to request a trade soon from the Suns, and I think 3 future first rounders along with Tyler Hero is a relatively decent package. Again, the Heat can stand to take on the salary because they're going to have a ton of cap space. Tyler Hero is a guy who I think if you give him an expanded role can be averaging like 18 points a game right now. And 3 future first rounders is a lot of future security for this team. And then for Miami, you just get a really solid future star, I think, and a duo of Booker and Butler gives this team a lot of potential, along with retaining young players like Duncan Robinson and Kendrick Nunn to have good spacing still. And I believe this is the last one I had. Julius Randle to the Heat for Derrick Jones Jr., a second rounder, and 2 first rounders. So I believe Julius Randle is probably the least flashy of any of the players in this trade, but I think he's a guy where um, basically he's a lot better than Derrick Jones Jr. And if you just add him to the starting lineup and you say your starting lineup is something like Kendrick Nunn, Jimmy Butler, Duncan Robinson, Bam, and Julius Randle with like Iguodala, Jay Crowder, um, and Tyler Hero off the bench. That's a really solid bench, and Olynyk. Uh, that basically they'd be adding a really solid piece for not having to give up that much. Because to me, Derrick Jones is good, but he doesn't really have the minutes to play as much as he needs in Miami because the forward spots are getting taken up by like Iguodala, Butler, Duncan Robinson, and Jay Crowder at this point. So it just would give him more of an opportunity in New York. And then, Julius Randle's pretty good, so I think he's worth 2 first-rounders at this point. Because it's basically 2 first-rounders and a guy who's about to come off of his rookie deal. So I think that's fair. And that's all I got for today, guys. So hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found the trades interesting. Leave me your thoughts below if you agree or disagree or want to give me your own trade scenarios. I will see you in the next video. Have a good day. Bye.